L'chaim filivracha, to life and to blessings. Today is a very, very special day. Today is the 28th day of Sivan. What is the 28th of Sivan? An awesome day.
I think I know what it is.
28th day of Sivan in 1941 is the day that our dear Rebbe and Rebbitzin made it out of Europe, made it out of World War II that was in Europe and the Holocaust in Europe to the safe shores of America. Came on a boat from, I think it was Portugal, if I remember correctly, some of the details. And it's a terrific day. Awesome day. Now, of course, we all know about 6 million that perished in the Holocaust. Over 50 million people that died in World War II. Yet, for the person that a miracle happens to, and even though the miracle may not have happened to someone else or many others, for the miracle of life, we have to give thanksgiving, celebrate it, the life that we have. Although, again, God forbid, we could be in an instance like the war in Israel, that there's been loss of life, but the person who miraculously was saved needs to give thanksgiving and celebrate the life that has been spared for them. So this is the day, entering in the 80th year, that the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin, Yishu Beisei, that they were literally, I think it was, if I'm mistaken, the last boat that made it across and were saved. We didn't know about this day, or Chassidim didn't know about this day, when it was exactly, many years. And but now we know, and it's a reason to celebrate. Because the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin were saved. Period. Welcome to Tanya today. Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you for Chabad Zurich and Kadesh Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Folks, I gotta be honest and come forward and tell you that mistakenly, yesterday, I gave today's class. I guess I wanted to celebrate the 28th of Sivan early. Well, we're going to briefly give that class over because it's today's teachings. And we are in chapter 9, starting today, that brings out the exaltedness of God, something that ultimately is very difficult for us to comprehend in the fullest manner because we have no experience of this. We have no true understanding of this. We understand it, maybe why it must be this way, not indeed how it is this way. And that is, well, you know what? Let's understand the way things are by us There's 5 degrees of separation that my intelligence is the most elevated, sublime, power that I have, all of us have, is our intelligence. We're not talking about value here. We're talking, what's most valued, but what is the greatest life force in an individual is their intelligence. Right. And what does intelligence feed? What evolves from there, right? Um, is one's emotions. If you see your cup half empty, that's how you perceive, that's what your intelligence tells you. That will then feed you emotionally to kind of be feeling down, feeling less than. Look at my cup. It's very empty. Look at my life. I have an empty life. You're going to be down. So it's the perception that's feeding the emotion, because the perception is much greater than the emotion and therefore feeds it. It's incomparable, as a matter of fact. Right? Going a step further, one's thoughts are a result of one's feelings. You think about the things that you have strong feelings towards. If you have no feelings towards something, you won't think about it. You have strong feelings about something, so you're feeling your life is really empty. You're going to feel that. You're going to think about the emptiness, right? Feelings and thinking are not the same thing. The life force in thoughts is incomparable compared to the way it's in your feelings. First of all, feelings lead to your thoughts, and your feelings are beyond language, not limited to language. In your thoughts, they are now confined and constrained to language, and therefore not as powerful as they are in the feelings, the world of feelings, of emotions. Now, then, of course, from your thoughts comes to your speech, right? What leads you to speak? Well, if you never, only that which you think, or at least have thought, and it's now a part of in your thought process somewhere, will lead you to speak what you speak. Thought and speech are similar in the fact that there's language in both of them, but the power of thought, the life force in thought, is much greater. That's why it never ends, your thoughts. You're always thinking. As opposed to speech, you're not always speaking. Although when you see me, you might always think that I speak. Because after all, when I'm here, all you do is see me speaking. But you probably figured out that I'm not always speaking. Not when I'm sleeping, right? Not talking in my sleep. um, and even if someone does, it's not constant. But in my sleep, I'm still thinking. And when I'm awake, I may be engaged in something that I'm not speaking, but still thinking. Now, thinking doesn't mean you're thinking logically, doesn't mean you're thinking rationally, right? It just means you're thinking thoughts. Could be random. But, that's not the point over here. The point being that the thoughts are constant, speech isn't, because thought is much more powerful, right? By the way, you're always You're always feeling. When we speak about emotions, emotions doesn't mean that you are always thinking the emotion, right? Or what thinking based on the emotion. But emotions are there. They're in the subconscious. You're always having perspective on things because you're always seeing and looking around, and from that you're always gaining perspective that creates an attitude, that creates a thought, that creates what you express in speech. And then finally, what you actually do in action. So if I feel my, if I see my, let's take this, if I see my life very empty, my cup is empty. So it creates a feeling in me that, oh, then I start thinking, what am I thinking? How am I going to fill my life? How am I going to fill my cup? Right? And then from that, I'm going to start speaking maybe with someone, with a mentor, with a friend, on how am I going to fill my empty life. And then finally, what it's going to do? Bring you to action. Like me right now. I'm going to go to action. 1 second.
Need to get some more.
I'm going to fill my life.
That's 4 o'clock, right?
Well, there's applicants here too.
4. I get it done.
Okay, I had an empty cup. It brought me some sadness, that awareness that made me think about, oh, I got to fill my cup. That led me to talk it over with you. And finally, I went into action. I had filled my cup. L'chaim v'livracha. Those are 5 degrees of separation in the human being, right? That's what it is. How does this play out with God? Well, that we're going to save for tomorrow, although we've touched upon it, but we're going to save that for tomorrow. What does this mean? I mean, it's important to understand in and of itself our makeup, the soul's makeup. But this is in order to understand the exaltedness of God, the unity of God um, in creation, the power of Creator within creation. But this is in the middle of a thought. Our thought is to continue, but may we fill the emptiness in our lives through proper means. You know, one of the things that I do, recently we had a charity matching campaign for Chabad Lifeline for the Drug Crisis Center dealing with addiction. And what leads to addiction? It's because people feel their emptiness. And it doesn't feel good to feel your emptiness. So what do you do? So some people who do not take responsibility for their lives and kind of feel a victim of their upbringing, a victim of their community, a victim of life itself. And because they feel a victim, they don't take responsibility. And it's painful to feel the emptiness in life. So you take something, you take some alcohol, you take some drug to kind of dull the pain and to dull the pain. Of course, you dull the pain momentarily, but the pain's going to come back because in the end, it's going to be an empty cup. So what do you need to do is you got to fill your life with Tanya, with Torah mitzvahs, right? As we do over here every day. And um, it's actually a healthy thing to come every day to feel that we're empty. We're empty because as much as we're being filled, we've got an endless soul, that there's more and more to fill. And in the humility of that, of the soul that feels empty, allows us to learn together and to sense and to actually fill our soul with more and more and more. What happened with yesterday's teachings? Not that they were lost, God forbid. We incorporate, we make it a part of ourselves. But because the soul has an infinite power to it, because it, after all, is a part of God, so whatever was, if good is on better, better. So yesterday was good, but today is to be better, which means there's emptiness that I want to fill. And learning here together as we do, sharing as we do together over here is amazing. Chaim, chaim, v'bracha. Any questions or comments? Thank you. I see some beautiful comments over here. Dawn, Yatova, Frank, Davida, Leba, and many others. Joe, Tricia, Yan, Bev, Rav, Darren, David, Sarah, John, Michael. Who else? Eugenia, Sandy, Diane. I think I said Hanyatova, right? Cindy, Julia, Jeff, Tim, Daphne. Beautiful. Oh, Tyler. May it be to awoke desire to serve, which is to fill our vessel. Yes. Okay. Amazing as always. All right, folks. As always, to be continued. Have an amazing day. Chav Ches Sivan, the 28th of Sivan, the day that we have our Rebbe.